Hello, I'm James Mills and you're watching CATEX-TV broadcasting live from Princeton, New Jersey. The time is currently 11:30 a.m. in New York, 4:30 p.m. in London and 12:30 p.m. in Hamilton, Bermuda. Firstly, on this day in 2003, a major outage knocked out power across eastern United States and parts of Canada. Beginning at 4:10 p.m. ET, 21 power plants shut down in just 3 minutes. 50 million people were affected, including residents of New York, Cleveland and Detroit, as well as Toronto and Ottawa, Canada. Also on this day in 1912, the first double-decker bus appeared on the streets of New York, travelling up and down Broadway. The double-decker originated in London as a two-storey horse-drawn omnibus. And now to the news. US prices rose 5.6% in the year to July, the fastest inflation rate for more than 17 years. The rate of inflation, which was much greater than economists had predicted, driven higher by the 30% increase in energy prices during the period. Food costs were 6% higher than a year earlier. The price rises are squeezing consumers further. Inflation-adjusted average weekly earnings fell 3.1% in July compared to a year earlier. Despite the higher-level inflation figure, economists predict the rate will begin to slow from next month as a result of recent falls in oil price. Oil reached a record high of $147 a barrel in July, but had fallen significantly since then. The 15 economies of the Eurozone contracted by 0.2% between April and June, heightening fears that the euro area is sliding towards recession. The Eurozone's first decline since it was created in 1999 was driven by a slowdown in exports and consumer spending. The German economy, Europe's largest, shrank by 0.5% in the second quarter, compared with previous quarter. In both France and Italy, GDP shrank 0.3% in the second quarter. The slowdown was less pronounced in the wider European community of 27 nations, including the UK, which contracted by 0.1%. However, Estonia, where the economy contracted for a second consecutive quarter, is now considered to be in recession. Ireland, whose economy contracted in the first quarter of the year, has not yet released its second quarter growth figures. Compared to the second quarter of 2007, the Eurozone economies grew by 1.5% and the 27 European Union countries grew by 1.7%. The news weakening the euro, which is already well down from its recent highs against the dollar. But the Eurozone inflation, which was unchanged on the month, made it unlikely that the European Central Bank, which raised interest rates last month, will reverse its stance. The European Central Bank increased interest rates in July by 0.25% to 4.25% in a bid to combat rising prices. A slowdown in the growth of demand for Chinese goods from overseas caused industrial output to ease in July, official figures showed. The National Statistics Bureau said the output from Chinese factories was 14.7% higher in July compared with the year earlier, down from 16% in June. It is the slowest pace of growth for 18 months and reflects a slowdown in the global economy, the Bureau said. Some factories were also shut to ease pollution ahead of the Olympics. The Chinese government ordered some factories to suspend production from the end of July in an attempt to improve air quality. Economists are expecting output to pick up again after the Games. More than 272,000 people in the US received a foreclosure notice in July, a rise of 55% on a year earlier, according to analyst RealtyTrack. Florida and California had the highest rate of foreclosures, figures showed. In a further indication of the severe problems affecting US housing market, more than 77,000 homes were repossessed in July. As a result of this increase, 17% of all homes for sale in the US are repossessed properties. US mortgage giant Fannie Mae recently announced that it was opening new offices in California and Florida to try and increase the sale of foreclosed properties it owns. It is even considering selling them in bulk to investors. Last month, the US government introduced new legislation to try to prevent homeowners losing their properties. Realty Track said this could help the number of foreclosures start to stabilize as early as the first quarter of next year. Oil prices have continued to climb in early trade in Asia after US government weekly figures on Wednesday showed a drop in oil and petrol inventories. After adding $3 following the news, US light sweet crude continued to climb on Thursday, adding 86 cents to stand at $116.86 a barrel in Singapore trade. The London Brent climbed 72 cents to $114.9. Disruptions to exports from the Caspian region following the Georgia-Russia clashes also underpinned prices. Oil giant BP had closed an oil pipeline and a natural gas pipeline running from its Caspian Sea fields through Georgia, but neither have been damaged. On Thursday morning it was said that it had restarted pumping through the gas pipeline, known as the South Caucasus gas pipeline. Another BP pipeline that runs through Georgia, the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan oil pipeline, was also closed last week after an explosion in Turkey. Meanwhile, Iran's OPEC governor Mohammed al-Khatib said last week that the cartel of oil-producing nations should trim its oil output if demand falls in industrialized nations. On Wednesday, the U.S. Energy Department's Energy Information Administration data showed that crude oil imports had been hit by Tropical Storm Edouard. Petrol stocks fell 6.4 million barrels to 202.8 million barrels in the week ending August the 8th. British Airways says it has sealed an alliance with American Airlines that will allow the two carriers to fix fares, routes and schedules together. The move will also include Spain's Iberia, which is merging with BA. With aviation fuel prices near record levels and spending on air travel slowing, airlines are looking at ways to cut costs. But the carriers will have to persuade the US that the deal does not break US rules on foreign ownership of airlines. The airline said they planned to file for antitrust immunity from the US Department of Transportation, and they would also notify European regulators. They need immunity from US antitrust rules, which prevent airlines working together to unfairly dominate the market. BA said many of its rivals at Heathrow already have immunity, but Virgin Atlantic argues BA controls nearly half of all the landing and takeoff slots from the airport and already has too much power. However, BA Chief Executive Willie Walsh said this strategic relationship strengthens competition by providing consumers with easier journeys to more destinations, with better aligned schedules and frequencies. British Land will delay the development of the Leadenhall Tower in London's financial district, named the Cheese Grater, by at least a year. The firm blamed weak demand for office space and rising construction costs. British Land said the building would be completed in 2012, when letting prospects should have improved. British Land said the value of its multi-billion-pound property portfolio slipped 5% in 3 months to the end of June. The firm's chief executive, Stephen Hester, said that the weaker demand had started to hit office rents, but retail rents were still growing. Mr. Hester said the delay of the 47-story Leadenhall Tower would improve its letting prospects. He said it would be a premium building and attract premium rents. The building is designed by Richard Rogers and would be the tallest tower in the City of London. And now we'll go to a commercial break.
From prehistoric time to today, man's progress has been marked by his ability to fashion tools and use them to his advantage. From early humans making tools from stone, man evolved and was soon trading with other men. Money evolved, and tools such as the abacus to handle complex money transactions were developed. By the end of the 19th century, machines, such as the cash register, began to appear. 100 years later, we have even better computer-driven machines which track stock, change prices, and automatically reorder.